Hey, the simple act of wearing a mask. Such an easy thing to do. Putting on and wearing a mask when you leave the house, when you're around people, when you're in public, when you go to a store, when you walk into a restaurant. Just wear a mask. When you're in line to vote, mask up. Just put that mask on. Such a simple thing to do. I mean it. Such an absolutely simple thing to do. And I'll argue, and I'm not alone, but I'll argue that prior generations of Americans would have stepped up, right, and done their part and put that mask on. They'd have masked up, gone about their business a hell of a lot better than we are doing today. And I'll argue, and I don't think I'm alone, that prior generations, I'm older than a lot of you listening to me. I know I sound again like I'm 24. I'm an old white guy. I'll tell you, my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, my great-grandparents' generation, the World War II generation, man, wear a mask. That's all I got to do to help my country, to serve my country, to be there for my fellow man, to be there for my fellow American. All I got to do is wear a mask. Sign me up. Prior generations of Americans wouldn't have bitched and moaned and complained. They wouldn't have shouted, freedom, like so many Americans do today. Mask up. Just put that mask on. I had an interview today with a TV station in South Korea. Fascinating interview. Such nice people. And we talked about a lot of things, but obviously we talked about COVID-19. And we talked about and we compared and contrasted how South Korea is doing with COVID and how America is doing with COVID. And for those of you keeping score at home, South Korea, a country of about 55 billion people, I think I got that. Million people. I think I got that right. 55 or so million people. South Korea's had about 500 some deaths, COVID deaths. 500 deaths. 500 or so. Somewhere between 500 and 600. I don't know what the latest number is. Somewhere between 500 and 600 COVID deaths for a country of about 55, 60 million people. America? 330 million people. We're almost at 230,000 people dead. No comparison. We've failed. South Korea's controlled this thing. We've failed. And we talked about that. I talked about that in the interview. And he asked me, as we were talking about COVID, the host of this TV show in South Korea asked me, why is everything in America so politicized? And he asked me, respectfully, he said, like even wearing a mask in America is like a political thing. That's like a political fight. And I said, yeah, it is. Why is that, he asked. I said Donald Trump. I said mainly Donald Trump. And I said too damn many Americans who aren't willing to do their part to, sacrifice a wee little bit of freedom for the common good, right? For the greater cause. But also Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump, the leader, the president of the country, who from the very beginning disparaged, who from the very beginning mocked the wearing of masks, right? He's still making fun of Joe Biden, the next president. Think about that. The current president continues to make fun of the next president because the next president keeps wearing a mask all the time. It comes from the top, I said to this Korean TV host. We have a president who's politicized wearing masks. And when I ended the interview, again, I sat there, poured myself another cup of coffee, and I thought to myself, and I've read the studies and I've read the reports of how many lives we could have saved if the American people did their jobs and wore a mask, all of us, from the very beginning. If we had just sucked it up and done our part, the number of lives we could have saved. And I thought about that and I thought, what a shame. What a damn shame. Look, outside of the health care crisis, the health crisis that we're living through, and the economic crisis that we're living through, which we continue not to talk about enough, the millions and millions and millions of lives and livelihoods that have been destroyed, right? The millions and millions of Americans who are way behind on rent and or mortgage, unemployed, all the rest, the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of small businesses that have closed and shut down for good. Outside of all that, when you think about it, there are a lot of reasons why America failed in our response to this pandemic. But the simple act of just wearing a mask, when you cut right down to it, that's really all we were asked to do. We were not asked to put on a uniform, get on a plane, get on a boat, go somewhere over there and get killed, right, to serve and defend our country. We weren't asked to do that. You know, prior generations, numerous prior generations were asked to do that for their country. Put the uniform on, here's a rifle, go defend us. And die in some rice paddy, die in some field, die in some swamp on another corner of the earth. We weren't asked to do anything like that. We're still not asked to do any of that. As I come to you today, a week, 5-6 days before the election, our leaders, our elected officials have generally asked us to just do this one simple thing. When you're out and you're around people, wear a mask. As best as you can, social distance. Avoid large gatherings. Most especially avoid large gatherings indoors. But really, put that mask on. And I told this Korean TV guy, we, as a country, we failed. 228,000 deaths later, thank you very much, we failed. And it starts at the top. We are, unfortunately and sadly, we've been saddled with an unfit, malignantly narcissistic, pathologically dishonest, utterly incapable of any empathy kind of a guy in the White House. And so when the president says you don't need to wear a mask. When the president questions the science of putting on a mask from the very beginning, when the president disparages people who wear masks from the very beginning, when the president mocks his Democratic opponent for wearing a mask from the very beginning, you know that a certain percentage of the American population is going to follow suit, and they have. And they have. So when you combine way too many Fox News watching Trump followers, freedom, who just don't want to wear a mask, when you combine that with all the other stupid, selfish people in America, and there are plenty of stupid, selfish people in America, we haven't done our job. The country has not done their job. We have not, as a country, stepped up and masked up. And that's a pretty sad thing. And this interview today with this Korean TV station, it hit home with me. We really didn't do our job. And because of that, we have the worst response to this virus in the industrialized world. Kudos to South Korea. They did their job. 844-305-7800 if you want to weigh in. We're just getting started today on a Wednesday, I think it is. 844-305-7800.